we're live. This is Katie Blunt and Gary with West Virginia Citizen Action. Hi, we're at Coonskin Park up here in Charleston, and we're with a bunch of nonpartisan groups, organizations, and families who care about West Virginia children. We're here to speak about the child tax credit and why the increase and why it needs to be extended. So we need to have Congress extend it. I'll let you hear all of these awesome people speak about why this increase brings thousands of children out of poverty in our state. It's amazing. A lot of people don't know that the increase will end, but with an extension, it can go until 2025. So I will let you hear from everyone else instead of me.
Okay, we're going to get started with our press conference today here at Coonskin Park and lifting up the new child tax credits that are coming out this month, the checks coming out this month. And our theme is that child checks keep families afloat. So we really want to see these checks continue, and we have a number of speakers here to talk about the importance of having these checks continue and the importance of what these checks will do between now and the end of the year, as they'll be coming out on a monthly basis. And our first speaker today is Reverend Derek Bondi, who's the chair of the West Virginia Council of Churches Government Concerns Committee. Reverend.
Thank you so much. The West Virginia Council of Churches has cared about the issue of poverty, especially in the midst of the lives of children, and it's something we're very passionate about. It's something we've always worked towards, and so as the West Virginia Council of Churches, we're just thankful for an opportunity to help address poverty with children and hopefully help change this, turn it around, even if it's just a little bit. Every little bit matters, and this actually seems to be more than a little bit, because I can say as the parent of a toddler with twins on the way that this tax credit means a lot to us personally. For our personal finances, this is having an immense impact, and we are so very thankful for what this does for our family. And I know there are probably countless other families that feel the exact same way. So this is something that is very near and dear to our hearts personally. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Bondi. Our next speaker is Dr. Jesse Ice, who's the Executive Director of West Virginians for Affordable Health Care. And you really have to talk right into this microphone for it to work.
All right, let's see. Okay. Thank you, Gary. As Gary said, I'm Jesse Ice. I'm the Director of West Virginians for Affordable Health Care. And you may wonder, why is healthcare talking about the child tax credit? Well, we know that the child tax credit has been a very popular bipartisan program since it was first introduced in 1997. And as of 2018, it was estimated to have lifted 4.3 million people out of poverty in its form then. As part of COVID relief, child tax credit expansion was passed, with estimates that another 4.1 million children in America will be lifted out of poverty. And this includes reducing poverty for West Virginia's children by 43%. For example, a single mother of 2 small kids can now, if she's not working, she can now get the child tax credit under the 2021 law that was passed. We cannot underestimate how important financial stability is for the health and growth of children. We know that children living below the poverty line score lower on tests. They work and earn less in their lifetime than their more affluent peers, and they have worse health outcomes that last their entire life. And this relief could not come at a better time. Early studies are showing a worrying uptrend in poverty since the beginning of the pandemic. And giving cash to people has been shown time and again to be one of the most effective supports we can offer families struggling with poverty. and to help decrease those effects. Making permanent the child tax credit expansion could prove key to addressing the conditions that lead to poor outcomes, whether they be health, school testing, employment opportunities faced by so many children and families in this country. So we 100% support the expanded child tax credit and hope it remains as part of the law of the land.
Hi, my name is Julian Jacoboni, and I'm also with West Virginians for Affordable Health Care. Today, I'm going to be reading a couple of statements from parents who could not make it today. The first parent is from Hampshire County, and she said, "My husband and I both work full-time. We have 2 small children. Myself and one of my children are seriously chronically ill. While we have health insurance, it doesn't cover all the treatments and medications we need. The child tax credit would help us with our medical debt. We need this to receive treatments and basically stay alive." The second parent that sent me a statement is from Monongalia County, and she said, "I am a single mom living in Monongalia County with my 2 elementary-aged children. By any current measure, we are a middle-class family, but I worry about finances a lot. One huge benefit of the child tax credit for our family is having a larger tax refund to put towards our expenses. This leaves extra money that I can use for childcare so I can work. Childcare seems outrageously priced in America, even for middle-class families. Anything that helps moms like me to work and take care of my children at the same time is a valuable program to us." And then I have one more statement from a teacher. "As a teacher, the child tax refund will help in multiple ways. I feed my kids at school when they are hungry and do laundry for those who are without running water at home. The child tax credit would not only help myself, my wife, and our children by helping replenish our income, but I know it will help my students' families with the most basic needs. Thank you."
Thank you so much. Thanks for getting that there. Our next speaker is going to be Angie Kearns, who is a volunteer with the Center for Community Change.
I got a couple shy kids here. So, my name is Angie Kearns, and as he said, I'm a volunteer with Community Change. I'm also a community activist and organizer, and I'm a mom. And not only do I see the impact of the tax credit in my own life with my own children, and this money literally being the difference between being able to afford the special dietary needs that my family requires, or being able to struggle and have to skip meals myself to make sure that they have. But for the families that I serve, over 300 families a month I see come through the food pantry. And I promise you, we know when money is released from the government. And we worry when we don't see people. The reason we worry is because families are so unstable in the economy, especially in West Virginia, especially in many economically disenfranchised areas, that when we don't see someone for a week, we have to wonder what that means for that family, for those individuals, and for those children. This money is literally life-changing for every parent that I have spoken with when I said, what would it mean to have an extra $250 investment in your children a month? They go, it's a game changer every single time. And it is, but we can't change the game to only then change the rules on the people in 2 years after this temporary assistance runs out, because our problems are not temporary. Poverty is not temporary, and food insecurity is not temporary. So this money is very, very much needed. However, the issues that we are addressing did not appear overnight, and they're not going to go away in 2 years either, which is why it is absolutely necessary to keep this benefit in the communities. This is an investment into our families, our children, and our future, and a very, very small amount of money that can guarantee that children can grow up, that they can be healthy, that they can pursue extracurricular activities and find out what their passions are so that they can grow won't have a society left to build for. We have to invest in our people, and we have to make it permanent.
Thank you so much, Angie, for that impassioned statement. Our next speaker is Sam Hickman, who's the Executive Director of the West Virginia chapter of the National Association of Social Workers. Sam?
Thanks so much, Gary, and thank you all for being here today to talk about what's happening with our families. As social workers, we really help the most vulnerable citizens of West Virginia, including children and families who are suffering from the effects of the pandemic, children who are undergoing toxic stress along with their parents because of various things that have happened. Think about it. You've lost your job. You can't pay your mortgage. Maybe you're going to lose your car because you can't pay the car payment. Your kids are all stressed out because not only are their schools closed and they've had to do things in different ways, not really effectively for many of them, and all of their social support systems are gone. All of this underscores the fact that our families are not stable right now, and they need our help. Stable families help children thrive, and unstable families sink into despair. And that creates lifelong problems and health consequences. Making the child tax credit permanent would help the most vulnerable, struggling, and low-income families keep their heads above water. Now, our country does a halfway decent job of intervening in cases of abuse and neglect, but the problem is the damage is already done at that point. You can't make up for trauma that's already occurred. You can help to mitigate it, you can help people put their lives back together, but keeping that trauma from happening in the first place would be best. The damage is done, and it's hard to overcome after the fact. The job of making families whole becomes that much more difficult. The child tax credit is a perfect example of an upstream strategy that will keep these horrible things from happening in the first place. Stable families who can meet the needs of their families and communities are going to be good citizens, good parents, and successful children. It's not the only thing that we need to do as a nation to help our kids and families, and that's why it's just one part of the broader American Families Plan. But it is a great start. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam. As Sam said, this child tax credit is an investment in our families and an investment in our communities. And another community worker is coming up next. I'd like to invite Kathy Ferguson from our future West Virginia to make a statement. Thank you, Kathy.
The roots of our future began back in the 90s when an ad hoc group of people came together to address the needs of children and families in West Virginia. Then known as Healthy Kids, Healthy Families, this group of stakeholders was primarily interested in advancing children's health insurance program across the state of West Virginia, which should help thousands of families across the state get what they needed. As time wore on, this group came to further understand the limitations that low wealth had in building healthy individuals, families, and communities overall. It was important then, and even more so now, to address poverty as the single largest factor in one's educational attainment, food security, and positive health outcomes. It's a major social determinant of homelessness, criminality, drug, alcohol abuse, conditions that we've seen grow exponentially in our state. For a state such as West Virginia, which regularly ranks amongst the last in quality of life issues, addressing poverty is crucial to ensuring our state is able to rise up to a level that will help people meet their basic needs and meet their desires of those who would like to stay and grow their families here. The child tax credit is a major step in this direction and is one that this organization fully supports. The poverty level for a family of four is currently $26,500. And while many people feel that they are far removed from that, those of us standing here today know that most of us are in fact the working poor. We are people living paycheck to paycheck with little savings for emergencies or opportunities to have disposable income. In fact, the overwhelming majority of West Virginians are only 1 or 2 paychecks from dire straits, and all it takes is for the loss of a job, the absence of a spouse or partner, a healthcare crisis to send families spiraling economically. COVID pulled back the curtain on this truth, and it is in large part why the child tax credits have finally been reevaluated and have been restructured to its current form. CTC isn't the be-all, end-all. We still need more jobs, higher wages, better infrastructure, to name a few things. But just as in the 90s, it's a program that will help families immediately. It will help them throughout the year and give folks an ability to help them invest in small businesses, home-based businesses, to start saving, to pay bills, to build credit worthiness, and to ensure food and shelter. And equally as important, not to have to decide between paying for prescriptions and buying their children a new pair of shoes for the start of school. It's so easy to take these things for granted, but for a large number of West Virginians, this is a reality that has gone far too long without redress. Our Future West Virginia has been working in this vein for decades, and it is a great day and time that the federal government has finally caught up with what folks on the ground have been suggesting for years. We won't say it's about time. We will simply say thank you and continue to do the work of helping people in West Virginia access important resources such as this, and working towards our vision where West Virginia is the best place in the world to live, work, and raise a family, no matter who you are.
Thank you so much, Cassie. Kathy, yes, we would like to see West Virginia be the best Virginia. And to help us wrap things up, we're going to have Dr. Takaya Smith, who's with Young West Virginia, come up and say a few words. Thank you, Takaya.
Thanks so much, Gary. We're going to get our beach ball here to keep our families afloat. We know that that's what the child tax credit would mean for West Virginians and young West Virginians. We consistently make national headlines for our alarming rates of child poverty in the state. And so we know that something like the child tax credit and the expansion of the child tax credit is crucial to having our families be able to survive, and not only survive, but to thrive, because we've been surviving for too long. This is our young organizer, India Frith. Say hello. We are sweaty because we just came from one of our housing complexes, and we are going every week, multiple times a week, into low-income housing complexes that are homes, that have been my homes at several times, to let people know about the child tax credit. And the feedback that we're getting from families is that it's incredibly needed, and that this is going to allow them to have a better quality of life. And they've been waiting on relief like this for a really long time. So I just appreciate everyone who showed out today, and we have to keep this going. We have this issue of poverty and child poverty, and it's not without a solution. And we're on a solution here. Would you like to say a few words, India? All right. We're tired because we've been out, but I appreciate it, and thanks to everyone who's shown up, and we're just going to keep it going, and I hope our senators and our elected officials keep hearing us and keep hearing the needs of working families and young people and parents. So thanks, God.
Okay, that wraps up our speakers for today. We just really wanted to emphasize that this child tax credit, monthly checks that are coming in starting this month, going through the end of the year, as a result of the rescue plan that was passed earlier this year. The administration has proposed to extend these child tax credits until 2025, and we are all for that. But we would like to go beyond an extension. We would like to see these child tax credits be made permanent, so the families can continue to be lifted up. And thank you Thank you very much. This is the end of the press conference.